Okay, let's access our preference settings for Lightroom. On the Mac OS, it's again under the Lightroom menu, Preferences. PC users, it'll be under the Edit menu, Preferences. We'll be presented with a series of tabs at the top that describe the different areas associated with the preferences. Under the General tab, we always want to automatically check for updates. This is the way that Lightroom checks if you're connected to the internet for certainly looking for updates to the program. Something you always want to do whenever you can. The next area is called the Default Catalog. And when Lightroom starts up, you can ask it to load the most recent catalog. 90% of users only use one catalog in Lightroom, so having it set to load most recent is probably the most efficient way. But if you use multiple catalogs, let's say in my situation I use a laptop catalog and then I use a archive catalog on my tower system in the studio, I can say prompt me when starting Lightroom, and this will give me a dialog box that shows me the catalogs, and I can pick a specific catalog that I want to work within. The rest of the options are all defaults and they're all good. Show import dialog box when memory card is detected, a good one. Always get a telephone call. Inserted my memory card and Lightroom didn't start up. Well, Lightroom has to be open and then insert the memory card, and the import dialog box will present itself. Guaranteed. If we look to the presets, there's a variety of them. I usually don't click Apply Tonal Adjustments. Okay, that's an automatic process. I prefer to add the tone adjustments myself. But I do prefer to add the auto mix when first converting to black and white. Great little tool that Adobe's developed. It allows you to expedite the process in creating a black and white, because the first view of the black and white in the conversion is automatically created, and then there's just usually a few tweaks you make associated with that black and white. Make default specific to camera serial number, certainly good thing to check, and also making the default specific to camera ISO settings when you're looking to do some noise reduction. Store presets. Presets with the catalog. Good idea? If you're a multi-catalog user, it's probably not, because the presets you create you want to use in the other catalogs, so do not check this button. And then restoring all the presets and so forth, you can always click on these to visit this area. If there's something you want to revert back to, you can do it here. Next one is the external editing, and this is where when we edit outside of Lightroom into Photoshop, Photoshop Elements, Photoshop CS products will be the first to be exhibited up here. I prefer the TIFF file format versus the PSD file format. The color space is ProPhoto RGB, 16-bit depth, good stuff. Resolution at 300. Most of my stuff is going out to submission to magazines and things like that, and 300 is the resolution that I prefer. No compression on the TIFF file, I think, is great. Okay, so there's how I set it up. Again, PSD files are proprietary to Photoshop, and TIFF files are a cross-platform, cross-application file format. There's additional editors outside of the Adobe products that you can identify here. If you want to, you can choose a specific application, and I use basically the same settings associated with the file format. So if you're using, let's say, a standalone product like Photomatix, rather than using the plugin associated with Lightroom, you can identify that here and move to it in the external editor option in Lightroom. Okay, so stacking with the original. Okay, so I prefer to leave it unchecked. I want to see both the original and the edited file. And then over here, there's templates for renaming files associated with external editing a file. The round tripping that happens with Lightroom is specific. If you access the photo edit in and you take it to Photoshop or another application, all you need to do when you're finished editing that file is hit Command S, Control S on the PC, and it will round trip it back to the folder of origin and put it in there as a TIFF file. Cool stuff. File handling. Okay, those of you who use DNG, all the defaults are good, and I would suggest using the new embed fast load data. That'll just expedite the process of using those DNGs. DNG is the digital negative file that Adobe has produced. Currently, I'm not a big fan of it. I use my proprietary RAW files from my Nikons or my Canons or my Lumix cameras. This one here I think is important. Treat the following characters as illegal. If you set it up, pull this menu down, you can see that these are all illegal characters to a database, and it's best to pick them and then replace them with an underscore or a dash. Either one works. I prefer the underscore. The underscore kind of breaks up the file for me, where a dash file name runs together. Just a visual thing for me. Camera Raw cache settings. Okay, this is where Camera Raw reaches into the cache for the previews, and I move that up to 10 to 20 megabytes in size, and then the maximum size. I don't do a lot of video currently, so the max size of 5 gigabytes is the default, and I think that works pretty well. Now in the interface, I get rid of those end marks. I don't want the yin-yang symbol or some tattoo. I put none there. I think it's just visual clutter. As far as font size, large makes a lot of sense. I'm over 40. That helps. The rest of the defaults are all perfecto. Do not change them. And then I think on the PC you'll see font smoothing down here rather than using typographical fractions. All good. Make sure your keywords are separated with commas. Okay, let's move to Lightroom's features associated with the interface.